I have benefited greatly from the U.S. disability laws, and people with disabilities in the rest of the world deserve these protections too. Whether we acknowledge our role as a world leader in disability rights or not, other countries still look to the U.S. for leadership on human rights issues. U.S. laws enabled me to access my fundamental rights, especially in terms of having access to quality education. I'm advocating for similar laws to be implemented everywhere. Education is very important in my family. My mother was the 13th child in a very poor family from Eastern Samar in the Philippines. Her father, the breadwinner, died when she was barely a year old, putting the family in a dire financial position. However, despite their poverty, the family prioritized education because they believed in its power to transform lives. And so their family had a system. One sibling would graduate from college and then support the education of the next sibling until all the siblings graduated. Through this, my mother was able to rise above her poverty, become a registered nurse, and come to the United States. My mother moving to the U.S. turned out to be critical for me. I was a citizen of a country where disability rights laws would allow me to gain the access and accommodations I would need to succeed in life. When I started in the first grade in 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law. I didn't realize it at the time, but the ADA ensured that necessary accommodations were made to allow me to fully participate in school. The doorknobs were changed from the round ones to a lever, a special slanted desk was built for me so I could easily write with my feet, and one of the restrooms was modified for me to be able to use on my own. When I was younger, I think I took the rights the ADA gave me for granted. But as I started traveling as an adult, I realized that many people with disabilities in other countries are not given the same opportunities as Americans. When I began working with Handicap International, I was shocked to learn that millions of children with disabilities in developing countries are denied education. Many factors contribute to the exclusion of children with disabilities, including discrimination, inaccessible school buildings, a lack of accessible transportation, and a lack of trained teachers and special education resources. Exclusion from education further perpetuates the vicious cycle of disability and poverty. In 2013, HI invited me to travel with them to Ethiopia, a country where 97% of children with disabilities did not go to school, to see how they were working to enroll children with disabilities in inclusive schools with funding from the U.S. government. I learned that Ethiopia had signed the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, an international treaty based on the ADA, in order to create laws ensuring people with disabilities had equal opportunities. Using the CRPD, HI was helping Ethiopia to open up education to children with disabilities in 6 pilot schools. During my visit, I got to see the extraordinary impact of inclusive education on individual children. The story of Hoden, a 17-year-old girl who had multiple disabilities, stands out. Up until age 16, Hoden had been kept hidden at home by her parents who saw no purpose in sending her to school. After being persuaded by Handicap International staff, her parents agreed to send her to a nearby accessible school supported by HI. The change in Hoden was remarkable. When I saw her in the classroom, she was beaming with happiness as she practiced writing and reading passages out loud. Before I left, she told me, "Tell the world to send their children with disabilities to school." I returned home from Ethiopia inspired by what I saw and feeling that I needed to actively advocate for disability rights, something I had never done before. When I learned through Handicap International that the U.S. Senate voted against ratifying the CRPD when 150 other countries had, I knew I'd found my cause. To me, it was unthinkable that the U.S., the country that created the ADA and actively promoted and funded worldwide efforts advancing disability rights, would reject the CRPD. Along with HI U.S. staff, I visited nearly a dozen U.S. senators and told them why I thought they should support the treaty. Ratifying the CRPD would change no U.S. laws, but it would show the rest of the world that the U.S. stands with people with disabilities. I've been working on this campaign now for several years, and we still need to get the CRPD to the floor of the Senate so that it can be voted on for a second time. We need the President to resubmit it to, and then get 2/3 of the Senate to commit to supporting the treaty in order to be successful. I urge you to sign HI's petition if you haven't already, and please share it with your friends and family members. Links are down in the description. Let's make sure that millions of people with disabilities like Hoden all over the world never hear the words, "You can't." I still have another challenge for you. I take my feet for granted just like you take your hands for granted. This week, I'd like to see you try to fold a pair of long pants using only your feet. Post some proof down in the comments and I'll share my favorites on my Facebook page. I would love to hear your feedback, questions, and episode ideas down below. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little motivation. After all, if I can fly an airplane without arms, what is it that you can do?